Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight as we think about networking for introverts and others who dread it with our guest, Ann Shields, a dear friend of mine. I am joined tonight by a national expert in the fields of career planning and resources and career coaching. And most importantly, as I said, a former friend and colleague, former colleague and friend. You're still a friend, I guess I can call you that. Ann Shields. And I am really confident that tonight you are going to learn so much information from Ann. One, because Ann is an expert in this field and has been doing it for decades, but also because Ann herself is an introvert. And as we were preparing for tonight's conversation, Ann said to me, you know, introverts are trying to network and be successful in a system that was not designed or built for them. And so tonight, Anna is going to help us think about reframing networking in our own minds so that we can be more effective in building really a meaningful network for ourselves. As I said, tonight's session is going to be recorded. You can put your Q&A, your questions down at the bottom of your screen. You should see a Q&A button. Feel free to throw those in there. And after Ann finishes her presentation, we will address those questions. And now I want to tell you a little bit about our speaker tonight, Ann Shields, who had obtained a BA at Bates College and earned an MS at Western Illinois University with courses in adolescent development, counseling, and higher education administration. She has led the career centers at Bowdoin, Davidson, Carleton Colleges, Carnegie Mellon University, and the Alumni Career Services Program at the University of Rochester. A faculty member at the Institute of Life Coach Training, she teaches job search coaching to other professionals. Ann has supported thousands of students and adults in discovering their strengths, setting their directions, and achieving their goals. She attributes her success to a skill at listening between the lines and being genuinely confident in others' abilities to succeed. She dislikes networking, but she realizes the importance of it and makes herself do it anyways. So please join me in welcoming my dear friend, Ann Shields.
Thanks, Thomas. I do hate networking. And when Thomas and I were working together, I was responsible for coordinating regional events, which means receptions all over the country. And we traveled and we had to be on, and I dreaded every minute of it. So if you're like me and you dread it and you're an introvert, you are in the right place, and I am with my people. Let's start off with getting a sense of how much we dread it. Thomas, could you put up a poll, please?
I sure can. I'm going to launch the poll right now. So everyone should be seeing that pop up on your screen.
Would you please vote?
All right, we're getting votes in. Ann, can you see the results, or do you want me to read those off?
I can't.
Okay, I will tell you as we get, we're about 70% of the way there. So hopefully you folks can vote for us. It looks like the overwhelming response, 62%. Do I have to? Who else is going to be there, and can I go with you? And then there's a pretty, well, you know what, another one is gaining some speed here. Run away. That is the second one. And then let me see if I'm free that night. So those are the top three. But the first one, do I have to? Who else is going to be there? Can I go with you? So, you know, pretty receptive.
Well, I'm not sure we have as many introverts here as I thought, but that's okay. Introverts might be a little bit slower, maybe a little more reluctant to share. That's okay. We can live with that. Oh, sorry about that, people. The keyboard doesn't seem to want to play. So I thought there'd be more strong introverts, but I'm glad that there are a nice mix here, because even extroverts can learn some things tonight. The thing about networking is that it really is made The game of networking. The rules are for extroverts. Large crowds, noise, people bumping into each other, drinks, food, talking, groups, moving between groups. It's exhausting for people who are introverts. It feels transactional. I've heard people say it's smarmy, and they just like, ooh, I don't really want to do it. I can't remember names. It's just small talk. It's awkward. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. Do I have to go? The reframing of this is going to be a matter of looking at this from the strengths of introverts. Here are the learning objectives I have tonight. I'd really like you all to be able to leave with some tactics, some strategies that you can put into place the next time you have to go to a networking event. And we're also going to talk a little bit about networking not at events. I grew up thinking this was true. Introverts can be fixed. I just had to go out. I just needed to try harder. I needed to be less concerned about what people thought of me. I just needed to learn to be an extrovert. It wasn't going to help. Tonight, I want to talk about introversion. When I talk about introversion and extroversion, it's drawing on the Myers-Briggs type indicator. Most, if not all of you, have probably heard about it. It's one of the most used psychological instruments around the world. It's based on Jungian theory, and long story short, the theory is that we are born with predispositions to be certain ways. Nature and nurture could make a difference, but the key is that we're born to be extrovert or introverted. In this case, extroversion and introversion doesn't have to do with being shy or outgoing. It's where do you get your energy? Extroverts get energized by the things that are outside of them. So they walk into a networking reception and it's like, yeah, here we go. I'm so excited. And they make beelines to people they know. They bump into people they don't know, and they're best friends within 5 minutes. Thomas is one of those guys. Introverts, on the other hand, are more likely to do the opposite. As you saw earlier, dread going to these sorts of things. It's exhausting. If you haven't done the Myers-Briggs, I'm going to show you a list of some of the characteristics of introverts and extroverts. And when you look at that, I'd like you to think about where you fall on this spectrum of introvert to extrovert. If you're in the middle, we can call you a centrovert, but officially in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, you cannot be exactly in the middle. If you want to be tonight, that's fine, because I won't know and you can get away with it. But generally speaking, that's not possible. Here are the qualities of introverts and extroverts. It is quite possible that many, if not all of you, see yourself a little bit in both lists. It's like handedness. I'm right-handed. I do pretty much everything with my right hand. I throw, I play tennis, I golf, drink coffee. That doesn't mean my left hand just sits there completely inert. I can use my left hand. I can drink coffee with it very carefully, slowly up to my lips, because I don't trust it a whole lot. I spent part of 7th grade learning to write with my left hand because I was really bored. Some people might have also done that. If I broke my right hand and had to use my left hand, I'd become more adept. The fine motor skills would develop. My writing might actually be legible. My right hand's not usually legible, but my left hand might be. But as soon as I got cast off my right hand, I would go back. This is dominant. This is natural. I can make myself do other things. There are situations that I can be very open. There are some groups I'm attracted to. Obviously, I'm talkative tonight, but generally speaking, introversion. Oh, good golly, sorry about this. I had too much coffee. This is another one. Introverted means socially awkward, hates people, shy, book nerd, too serious, don't have skills to be extrovert. Well, I'm a couple of those, but it's not because of introversion and extroversion in Myers-Briggs. The two books that I've drawn on the most for this presentation, and I would recommend to people who want to do a little bit of reading, are these two. Zach's book, Networking for People Who Hate Networking, is fantastic. It's very readable. There's some tongue-in-cheek humor. I'm drawing on her heavily tonight. The Finkel book, she is a colleague of mine. She's been doing career coaching for a long time in New Jersey. Her book really covers the whole scope of job search, from networking through negotiating salary and even doing well on the first few weeks on the job. Okay, so if our pictures weren't here, it would say using superpowers of introverts to become super connectors. All right, this is where we're going to change the rules of the game. This is what introverts bring to networking and bring to their relationships all the way around. We're good observers. We tend to go more in depth with our thoughts and our relationships. We pause and put our thoughts together before we speak. We tend to like listening to others rather than jumping in and having the first word and raising our hands in class. We plan in advance. We plan our answers in advance for meetings. Perhaps you go into a meeting and you know how you're going to be, you know what points you want to get across, and you're thoughtful. Those are your superpowers for networking. This is from Zach's book directly. She talks about the 3 Ps for introverts in networking. This, however, can also be used by extroverts who might want to adapt some of their behavior to be able to deepen some of the connections that they make at networking events. Pause, process, and pace. These play to our strengths. This is what I feel like. I'm in the runaway group. Pause. Before even thinking about showing up at the networking event, an introvert will do best by taking some time, being thoughtful and strategic. First thing they hear about the event, they should pre-register. It makes it harder to back out. If you've already put your money down that they're making you a name tag, you're more likely to go. It also makes you decide soon enough so you can find someone to go with. The pre-planning and the preparing go together. I'll talk about those both in just a minute. The visualize, that's not usually a word that I use, but I've done some reading recently, and I actually put this in here for a reason. When I picture networking events, I start to tense up. The fight or flight thing starts for me, even if the event is 2 weeks away. I have to fight that. I have been doing that by visualizing myself being calm in those situations, by having conversations, by moving easily around rather than what has been traditionally my behavior at these things, which sometimes can be frenetic. It feels frenetic. I have to really tap it down. So visualize how it's going to be, how you're going to be. Planning, pre-planning and preparing. This is your strengths. What is it that you hate the most? Well, I hate not knowing who's there. Okay, is there any way you can find out in advance who's going to be there? No? Then I have another plan for you when you get to the event. I don't have anything to say. Well, I'm not a real fan of the elevator speech that people rattle off and you can tell it's just rehearsed and they say it all in one breath. It's a minute and a half long, but they say it in one breath. But The reality is, at one of these events, you are expected, or I am expected, to be able to tell people who I am, what I do, and in some settings, be very explicit about what I hope to learn that night. I know what it's going to be. I can prepare. I can prepare questions to ask other people. I may be looking for certain people at the event so that I can target them. There might be some opportunity to really think about who's not in my network that I might like, who might be there that I could help and who could help me. This is one of the different rules. You might decide you're only going to try to find 2 or 3 people. The introvert's game of networking is not collect as many business cards as you can. Business cards end up in the trash. If you pick them up too quickly, you don't remember who is who, what you talked about with each of them, and out they go. Or you put them in a rubber band, stick them in a desk drawer, and the pile just grows and grows and grows. Introverts do best if they pick 2 or 3 people, 4 if you're feeling really ambitious, that you really want to talk to. You might also want to think about who might be there that you would like to avoid. People who might suck you into a conversation that you really could have any other place and you really don't want to have it there. Or some people that you just want to avoid, because sometimes there are people like that. You know what you're going to be asked, have some answers. You know what you want to learn, have some questions. Give some thought about what you are and aren't willing to share with other people. Extroverts can talk about lots of things. Extroverts may ask lots of things. Do you have a family? Are you married? Have you lived here long? What do you think of so-and-so who works in your department? Introverts tend to play things very close to the vest. And you are allowed to continue to play things close to your vest. Now, in the conversation, their conversation implies some give and take, so you do want to be prepared with some answers. But some of the answers you can be prepared with are, well, let's say phrases that deflect. Gosh, let's not get into that right now. Oh, I really couldn't say. I haven't really thought about it. If you don't want to go there, don't go there. You can't use it for every question, but if you know that it's okay to deflect, and it is, when they ask a question that catches you off guard, that you're not sure you want to answer, rather than becoming flustered, pull out the, I'm not really sure, how about you? And just reflect it back. Okay. That takes care of pause, research, absorb, strategize, and seek depth. Now, geez Louise. Okay. Now we come to the event. In your pre-planning, you've scoped out where this place is. You have a sense of what the parking might be like, so you don't end up having to park a block and a half past a mile away from the event. When you arrive, catch your breath. If you can, leave your briefcase, leave the computer locked up in your car in the trunk. If you don't have very far to walk, leave your heavy coat in your vehicle. You don't want to be walking around with lots of things on you. Plan ahead. If you carry a purse, use a small one rather than a very big bag that when you turn is going to knock people's drinks over. Be thoughtful. When you arrive, you will arrive early, which seems absolutely counterintuitive to any introvert probably, but here's why. If you arrive early, you get to see most of the name tags laid out. If you haven't been able to figure out who is going to be at this event, now's your chance. Who's going to be there? Is there anybody there from an organization that you covet in terms of wanting to work there someday? Is there somebody there whose LinkedIn articles you've been following and you'd like to meet them? Is there somebody there from your alma mater? Might as well look and see. Again, see who's there that you might want to avoid. Let's play truth. Next, look around the room. See who else is already there. They will most likely, since they're all early, be standing alone. It's much easier to walk up and talk to someone who's standing alone than it is to walk into a group. Chances are they're feeling at least as awkward as you feel. So it's fairly easy to walk up and say, boy, I didn't realize I was going to be this early. I know that's a very clever kind of thing to say, but it gets the ball rolling. You can, of course, go check out the bar and the refreshments. But because you've planned, you are not going to have the refreshment table be your supper, your dinner. You are not there to have the last meal. Eat something before you go. One of the worst things that can happen for an introvert, besides having to be at this event, is being at this event with a big glop of marinara running down the front of your clothing. Stay away from the drippy stuff. If you're absolutely starving and you weren't able to eat in advance, grab some cheese and crackers, go hide in a corner, eat quick, and then come back to the action. Put your phone away and turn it off. It's not just introverts. Many of us have gotten into that habit of pulling out a phone and scrolling. You might have the sound off, but it vibrates in your pocket, you pull it out, and you just meant to glance to see if it was your kid calling or your boss. But once it's in our hands, it's really easy just to take a couple of seconds, which turns into 20 seconds or 30 seconds or 2 minutes, faster than you can believe. That makes you inaccessible. It will make you stand out. And if you're an introvert, that isn't necessarily something you want. Put it away. Make eye contact. It'll be easiest with people who are not in the big groups. They are probably the people who are as uncomfortable as you are. Make eye contact, they'll probably appreciate it. Position yourself strategically so that you can see the whole room. Again, the people you want to see, the people you don't want to see, and a friend who might be able to act as a wingman at some point during the evening. You're only looking to make contact, meaningful contact, with 2 or 3 and at most 4 people. When it starts getting crowded, you might feel that fatigue coming on, shoulders might get tight. Leave the room. Go stand out in the hallway at the far end away from the event. Take a walk around the building if the weather is nice. Take some deep breaths. You're going to be fine. It's going to be over soon. But you don't want to continue the networking event becoming more and more fatigued. It will make it harder to stay. It'll also make it harder to convince yourself that you're going to go the next time. So take your breaks. Once you meet the people you want to meet, leave. Just leave. Even if you're the first one to leave, it's okay. People aren't going to notice. All right. Well, that covers a big piece of what happens at the event, but there's also some of the other questions that come up and some of the problems that arise with the why I hate networking. I don't remember people's names. Frankly, neither do I. That's why on most of the name tags, the first name is in very large print, so it doesn't take much to glance and get the first name. Oh, as an aside, Name tags that are in plastic are great because you can slip your own business cards in and you don't have to go digging in your pockets or your wallet. You can just stick them in the plastic container. If by any chance they've made a mistake with your title or how your company is spelled, or even the misspelling of your name, you have a choice to make. You can say, oh, this is wrong. And they will say, well, you can write your own tag right over there. It's important to me somewhat that people put an E on the end of Ann. But if the trade-off is a sticky name tag that is going to be falling off in 3 minutes, with my handwriting, I'll take the Ann without an E. If you're in an event where you have to make your own name tags, find the marker that's the fattest. Take a thick Sharpie over a pen because you want your name to be big and bold so people know who you are. Because introducing ourselves over and over again, it's just tiring. And there's no need. That's where the name tags are there. Some people are concerned about networking because everybody seems to know everybody else, and they're all in large groups. How do I break into a group? It's rude. I don't know how to do it. They'll all look at me. Generally, they don't. Human beings are weird. When we're in groups in that kind of setting, if you walk up to the group, the people who you're walking toward will see you in their peripheral vision, and this weird thing happens. The group just organically opens up and makes space for you. If you don't believe me, try it the next time. It works. Make eye contact with the person who's speaking, give them a little nod, a little smile, and now, miraculously, you're part of that group. You're part of the in-group that's all active and talking. Listen for a while, pick up the pace, pick up the content of what they're talking about. If you have a question and feel like you have a space to ask it, ask it. If you don't feel comfortable, when you step away, and the group will just close itself back up, they're not all going to go, oh, where's she going? It doesn't happen that way. Pull out one of your business cards and write the name down of the person that you want to ask the question of, and write the question on the back of your own card. Now, you want to be careful not to give that card to somebody else. So you might want to have a way of putting them in your little packet, or put that one in your pocket so it doesn't get given away. Your strength at these events, when you're meeting people and talking to people, are your ability to listen well. You don't have a need to be talking. You can listen. Introverts often ask different types of questions because they're taking in what's being said and they're processing it. And the question that comes out may often be more thoughtful, more complex. It asks for deeper information. That will set you apart in a good way. Another thing is that you're not going to keep people cornered and not let them get away. You, on the other hand, may feel like you need to get away. In that case, being prepared with a couple of exit phrases aren't a bad thing. Oh, I can feel I've got a call. Would you excuse me for a minute? I'm going to head over and get something to eat. Thank you so much. I really appreciated talking with you. I'm going to free you up so you can meet some other people. It's about, I'm helping you by walking away. And you are, especially if they're an extrovert, because they want to keep buzzing around. Okay, we're there. This introvert hangover is true for people who are on the far end of that eye. I generally don't do anything the next day after a big work event. I'm wet. And when I'm on the road and have to do 2 or 3 of these events at night, I'm really beat. So extroverts dazzle. We impress with the follow-up because we've listened carefully. We've written down some thoughts, some questions, some follow-up. Now After having a night of recharging, it's time to send out some notes to the people that you met and that you interacted with. Reintroduce yourself. Remind them that you and they were in a conversation. Look at the back of the business card and say, it was a busy conversation and I didn't want to interrupt. I have a question for you though. Might we have 10 or 15 minutes to talk sometime? Simple. You don't need to fire them out the same night. If you're an extrovert, you come back home and you're just wild and pumped up. Yeah, you might take those 45 business cards out of your pocket and try to remember who's who to send them notes. And extroverts, please don't think I'm really beating down on you, because there's a sense of jealousy that I still have, even though I'm trying to be superpowers with my introvert. I envy that you can do that and that you can keep going and that you're better at remembering names than I am. It's just the way it is. Reaching out, people, if the question is thoughtful, may very well write you back. If they haven't within 4 or 5 days, you can give a gentle nudge. If they don't write back after the gentle nudge, walk away. If they say, yeah, I'm happy to spend a little bit of time, you've asked for 10 minutes, get your question asked, which is great because that means you don't need to do a lot of small talk. When it comes close to the 10 minutes, say, I only asked for 10 minutes, I don't want to hold you. Chances are they did block off more than 10 minutes because no one ever does these calls in 10 minutes, but you're showing courtesy to them by acknowledging, I only asked for that much time. If they're able to keep talking, terrific. If they've got a meeting back to back, they might say, it was great talking with you. I'd like to pick this up again when we can. There is a little bit of danger of connecting with too many people, because if you're connecting with extroverts, they may be saying, hey, let's get together for lunch. Let's have a drink. Let's go for coffee. Introverted me gets asked to do something. I have 2 reactions possible. One is to say no without even thinking about it. No, I can't. No. Or I might, in the immediacy of feeling pressured, I might say yes, okay, because I don't want to be rude. As soon as I get off the phone or hit send, I regret it and I'm already trying to think of a way to get out of it. So it might work better for you to do communication by email for a while or by LinkedIn. Do some phone calls. And then when you feel really comfortable, have a drink, have coffee, have breakfast. When you are at a place in the relationship where it's comfortable for you and you can open up and let more of the you of you be out for other people to see. In short, the rules of this game mean that for introverts, you're going to meet fewer people. It's going to take less time, because as soon as you've talked to your 3 or 4 people, you are free to leave the reception. Because you've had a more in-depth listening time with them and follow-up conversation, the relationship is going to be different. Now, networking is said to be transactional, and in some situations, that's how people treat it. But networking is really about making connections, about making relationships that are going to grow over time. I read someplace that relationships don't start to solidify until there have been 6 or 7 exchanges between the 2 people. I know that if someone wants, if I meet somebody who wants to know about civil rights or thinking about working in civil rights, I have a sister-in-law who has a career in that, but I don't immediately offer up my sister-in-law. I know she'd be willing to talk to anybody. and talk to anybody. But if I send everyone who might be interested to her, at some point she's going to say, stop, why are you doing this? These people aren't serious. So I'm going to have a couple of conversations to see if the person, how serious they are, what they're like in a situation. If I'm in a hiring position, I might do an information interview with somebody who wants to work in my organization, but I'm not going to hire them on that information interview. I am going to want to meet them in other situations, watch them in different situations. How are they in groups? How are they with people higher up in the hierarchy before we really start to trust? Okay, some of you were already feeling okay, they clear my calendar, I'm ready to go. Others of us may still be feeling like, I'm not convinced. So there's good news and there's bad news. Networking is everywhere and we have to do it. You have to network within your own organization. You could be a stellar performer, but if nobody knows you, nobody knows your name, that promotion, that recognition is not likely to come your way because you're unknown. The good news is that you can pick the ways to network that works for you. If you're not required to be at events because you're the planner or the host, skip the events. There are other ways to make connections. You can take classes. It's a structured setting. You'll be able to meet people. Maybe it's an internal training offered by your organization. Maybe it's a community college. Maybe it's continuing a class out of your public library. Alumni organizations. They may be strangers, but you shared 4 years together in a place not at the same time. You have a lot in common with other Worcester alums. It may be much easier for you to use LinkedIn and reach out to someone who has the same degree that you do. You can ask other people to introduce you to the people you want to meet rather than going up cold. Be on panels. You can give talks. Oh no, introverts don't want to talk in public. They don't want to be on panels. It's much easier for many of us to be on a panel or to do public speaking because we control it. We know what we're going to say. We can prepare. There's not a lot of tap dancing that you have to do, except for maybe at the Q&A, but you're good. You can handle it. You can volunteer to help at events, the ones that you have to go to. One of the best volunteer places to sit is at the registration table, making sure people get their name tags, because you know 3 or 4 names that you would want to connect with. Now you've got a face to go with the name. You don't have to spend the night scoping the room trying to read everybody's name tag. You know what they look like, so you can find them quickly. Finding them quickly means that you can leave sooner, definitely to your advantage. Okay, I skipped over happenstance. Networking happens all the time. It happens in the grocery store, while you're pumping gas, everywhere. And networking can be about finding a new apartment, about finding a new real estate agent, about finding a dentist. We exchange information with people all the time. Those aren't necessarily connections we're going to keep forever, but those connections happen. Happenstance. When you're standing at the sidelines of soccer practice and it's cold and rainy, look around and see who else is there, who might make eye contact. There may be somebody there who works at the organization you really want to be at, or serves on a board of an organization that you have a tremendous amount of respect for. I worked with a student one time who was flying to California for an interview. She had her notes in front of her. She was talking to this organization based on the research she had done for her senior thesis. And so she was just reviewing it and thinking about what questions they might ask. And the person sitting next to her looked over and said, "Oh, what are you doing?" It's like, I'm flying for an interview. Oh, well, what's that there? It's like, that's my senior thesis. Oh, really? What'd you write? And it wasn't uncomfortable conversation, uncomfortable situation. So they spent an hour and a half on the flight talking about the thesis and what they learned. And he was very interesting and he had things to add. And did you know this? And had you read this? They had a great conversation. As they were getting ready to get off the plane, he gave her his card and said, I'm looking to do some hiring as well. And our consulting firm is working on these sorts of topics. And if there's any way possible, if you're going to be in the city long enough, I would love to meet up with you more formally, have a conversation about the opportunities I might have at my company. Lottery ticket. It fell in her lap, sort of. She had to be willing to give the guy a chance and start having the conversation. She was able to talk about something she knew backwards and forwards because it was her thesis topic, and she felt great about being able to share that. He was able to ask smart, good questions, which took the conversation even deeper. Happenstance with a stranger on a plane turned into a job offer for her. I wouldn't start talking with every stranger on a plane, but sometimes if you're open, you will make connections that will last a long time. Social media. It takes a lot of time. Some people love it. Some people spend lots of time on social media, reading as well as posting. It's here, and it is a way to be seen and known. So pick your poison. The upside of social media for introverts is you get to think about what you want to say. You can type it up in Word, edit it 4 times, and then cut and paste it into LinkedIn. Reread it, and then send it. You don't have to do this on the fly. You don't have to be clever on the fly. Use your own ability to be thoughtful, careful, and dig deep. Use social media in a way that's going to serve you and draw on your strengths. These again were the learning objectives. I hope that some of these are going to be met for you. Name some strategies to use at the event, ways to do event, non-event networking, understand that less can be more, and what the superpowers are for introverts. Now, extroverts, I hope you stayed with us, even though I'm talking about the I side of that spectrum. There are some things here that could be useful for you too. The getting there early, the slowing down a little bit, being a bit more thoughtful about who you want to talk to. Coming home with 45 business cards might be lovely if you're collecting, but what you're looking to do is go deeper, make connections, build relationships that you're going to carry with you. For some people, it's still going to be, it still feels too transactional. I feel like I'm asking everybody for something and I don't have enough experience to give back. That's especially true for students and young alumni. I don't have anything to share back. I just feel like I'm taking. Networking makes the world go around. You might not have much to offer right now, but when you start making some connections and move up in your career, you will find yourself being asked at networking events, can I talk with you? Can we have a cup of coffee? You will be someone that someone in your own network might say, I had somebody want to talk to me, but they're right out of school. I don't think I could share with them a whole lot that would be useful. The work that you're doing is a better fit for the kinds of questions they're likely to ask. Would you do me a favor and have this conversation? You will eventually be paying back. You have to have the long view, the long game, but it will happen. You may sometimes have to force yourself to operate with your non-dominant hand. You can do it. The more you do it, the better you'll get at it. a little less exhausting it will be. But you don't have to be an extrovert to go to these events and gain benefit. It's about goals and relationships that carry on. It's about depth. It's not about speed networking, unless you're at a speed networking event, which I would avoid at all costs, personally. Final words. Oh, revel in your introversion. We are wonderful just the way we are, damn it. Reframe the game. Remember that that game was made for extroverts. Little sidebar, if you are someone who is responsible for planning events, please, 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 extroverts, ask some introverts what might be a good way to have some mix and mingle at the event that isn't just wide open networking reception. Introverts, if you're sitting in the meeting while other people are talking about, and then we'll have this networking event and it'll be great and there'll be music and there'll be food and everybody, you are okay to say, maybe there could be some other way to do this. Perhaps there are other opportunities for networking. If you're at a conference, maybe it's breakfast roundtables where you can meet people, or in the room, there's different parts of the room are for people who have different kinds of interests that just make it easier for an introvert to connect. And always, always, always play to your strengths. Stay yourself, be yourself. If you're trying to be somebody else, it's not going to work. You will feel more uncomfortable. You won't make the impression that you want to make. Just be you. You'll be fine. And that's what I have. Thomas, I hope you have some questions for us.
Thank you so much, Anne. Wow, what a great presentation. Just a reminder to folks that you can ask questions in the Q&A. So that's open. So feel free to put some of those questions in there right at the bottom. You can throw them in the chat as well if you want to throw them in the chat also. You know, and I thought, you know, this was such a fascinating presentation, really thinking about, you know, positioning yourself as an introvert in a position of strength and what you bring to the table. And actually, I think as people grow and develop over the course of their careers, they're looking for that meaningful connection. They're not necessarily, while they might even be an extrovert, they might not be still wanting to just rack up the business cards because they realize that's actually valuable time away from their family or away from their hobbies or away from the office. And so, you know, I think to your points, you know, as you look at senior managers and C-level executives, they're probably looking for those meaningful connections or those deeper conversations. And that is where introverts really shine. And so, you know, absolutely love, you know, everything you said today. I really, you know, it's funny, I do this myself. When you arrive at an event, kind of catch your breath, take a few moments of, you know, framing yourself because, you know, you've probably rushed to get there, or traffic, or you're on a train or a subway, and, you know, you're just a little bit flustered, might not be the right word, but your adrenaline is running a little bit, and you're preparing yourself. Yeah,
you're off balance.
Yep. And so
some people can do
pause.
that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's great. We do have a question here. And thanks for sharing your insights and relatable experience. I wonder if you have any advice for virtual networking events, especially during the last year that, you know, we've been all virtual. Any insights or tips that you can share?
Well, I struggle, even though I'm in the comfort of my own office, with virtual networking events. There's action going on. People might be talking over each other. You're fine watching and listening, thinking about the questions you want to ask. You certainly can acknowledge and respond to any questions that are posed to the wider group or to you directly, obviously. But again, be thoughtful. Don't feel like you need jump in and be a strong extrovert, keep some good notes and then follow up. In those networking events, everyone can't be extroverting all the time. Well, actually they can, but then the introvert has to be able to come back around afterwards, having listened, having some good questions, and going to the source, the person that you want to connect with. I'd be happy to have some more conversation about that, but for now.
And that's great. You know, there are several comments here from people who are really just loving this idea of giving yourself a goal of 2 to 4 people to meet at the event. And, you know, Valerie loves this idea of also then getting rewarding yourself once you have achieved that goal. Eric has a question here. If a networking event is, for example, 3 hours, what's an acceptable time to stay at the event? Would leaving after 30 minutes appear strange to others? I think you talked a little bit about that, but would love for you to sort of kind of reposition that in how you think about the amount of time you should or shouldn't stay, or really should it be about the goal of making those meaningful connections? And once you've done that, you're good to go.
Goal is about the meaningful connections. And if you are a strong introvert, during that 30 minutes, you might have gone out into the hallway twice to catch your breath and recalibrate and refocus and talk yourself back into going. There's always the bar. Have a drink. There will be people there who are friends that you might want to talk to, but you only stay as long as you can. Never, ever push yourself to the point of exhaustion. Leave before you're exhausted. Leave with a win. Leave feeling good about the connections that you made. And it'll be much easier to go the next time. If you stay exhausted, you're not working your strengths. You're operating with your non-dominant hand. It's exhausting. It doesn't look good. It doesn't feel good. Leave. If you can do it in 30 minutes, go for it.
That's great. Thanks, Ann. You mentioned a wing woman. We've got a question here. What is the best way to be a wing woman to an introvert when trying to help them with networking? And, you know, something as you were speaking about, you know, when you arrive at the event and, you know, making kind of friends with the staff who were there or the person at the registration table, to let them know, here's who I'm really looking to make contact with, or here's what I'm looking to get out of this. But for the person who's the extrovert, how can we help our friends or just colleagues, you know, who are more introverted?
Well, if the extrovert knows some of the people that the introvert wants to meet, then it's obvious. They help with the introductions. There's also a way to check in, just sort of do a check-in. How you doing? Do you need to take a break? One of the worst things a wing woman can do is say, oh, come on, just a couple more people. You'll be fine. Come on, I'm with you. It's not helpful. There are times when it might be useful to have a wing woman when you're in a conversation with somebody and it's just going on and on and on, and you can't find a way to gracefully get out. Having someone with you that you've gone to the event with, make eye contact, and with that little look of, help me, they can come over and say, oh, so-and-so's looking for you, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, and be able to pull you away. That works well for anybody.
Great. Hey, Ann, I got a question for you. You know, you talked about, you know, when you're at a reception, showing that you're open to those types of conversations, or the example you gave of the student who was on that plane. You know, she needed to show that she was open to that person starting that conversation. Can you describe, I mean, what does that look like? I mean, is there something that people should be aware of, their own personal body language in how you might maybe revert or go back into a natural tendency, but might not look open to those who are on the outside? Can you just talk about that for a bit?
Yeah, a way that might happen is that you get a drink and you get a plate of food, which I recommend you never do, because there's really no place to put the plate on top of your wine glass, switch hands, shake hands, get a business card. Usually it's one thing at a time, either a drink or a plate of food. But if you're at a place that has a high cap tables, that'd be a place to go and be open. Or it could be a place to go and hide. That may be something that each person needs to decide for themselves. It can be a place to catch your breath. It allows other people to come up to you and say, may I join you? And then I'm not the one who's having to go out and meet people. Having, again, the phone is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
What have you experienced, Tom?
Yeah, I think you're completely right with the phone. I think for all of us that either is a slight comfort to be able to say like, okay, I'm either exhausted, and instead of walking out of the room to let myself catch my breath, I'll just pull my phone out and either pretend like I'm sending an email, or I'll be reading an email, and that looks like I'm too busy. And so therefore you're closed off to any of those conversations. I think your idea of making eye contact with individuals, the people who are standing alone are usually the ones who are more open to those conversations of the one-on-ones versus that big group of people and trying to break into that. So I think, yeah, those are definitely the keys. And you can tell, I've done a lot of receptions. You can tell the people who are the two folks who are talking to each other, they're less likely to probably let you in because they're in a really, serious conversation, or they know each other very well. So it's tough to try to break into a conversation where there's just two people. To your point earlier, the larger group is much easier to kind of slide in, and also slide out than just two people. So some great tips there. Here's actually a really good question that Ashley just posed. What's your next step when someone starts talking over you, or your conversation feels like it's been hijacked?
Oh, that's a great question. I'd want to know first if the person who's hijacked it is somebody I actually want to meet, in which case I might let them go on for a while. If it's somebody that has cornered me, maybe one of the people I want to avoid spotted me across the room and made the beeline, then the phone in the pocket, oh, my phone's vibrating. I need to go and make sure that my kids are all right. I have a babysitter. They don't know whether you have a babysitter and kids or not, but it gives you a reason to excuse yourself. It's hard when they don't give you any airtime. We really can't say, well, it's been great talking with you. It may be that you have to be ready to do some of that deflective action and be able to escape. Wing woman helps. The phone helps. Looking up and across the room going, oh my goodness, I saw somebody that I really need to give some information to. Would you excuse me? And go. They don't know whether that person really needs you or not, or if there even is a person, because their back is to you. It's a white lie. It's a little white lie. Being stuck with someone who won't stop talking, or with a little white lie, it's your conscience.
That's great.
Hey, Thomas, I was thinking about something. The other people who are standing without talking to anybody, they may work for or with the person that I want to meet.
Yeah.
I don't know who that person knows. And part of networking is it's not who you know, it's who they know.
Yeah.
And further out. So there may be people there who are not extroverted, but who know some of the people that could make the introduction for you.
Yeah. That's, I used to work at a business school, and so the students would, they're hyper focused on their path or the industry they want to work in.
Mhm.
And so they would say, well, I don't, they'd come and they'd look at a program or look at the, the listed name tags and say, well, there's no one here I want to talk to. So, or no one here at the company that I want to work for. So I guess I'm going to leave. And I'd say, no, I mean, you have no idea the connections that these individuals have. And so I guess to your point earlier, while it's about those meaningful connections, you might also throw in there one or two kind of, random people that you might talk with that weren't, the folks that you pre-planned to meet, but still might be able to offer some of that, the opportunity to connect with someone else, or maybe who you can then also help, and think about, what are some of the value adds that you bring and that you can help others be able to see.
Mhm.
Because then then I think it also reframes from I'm getting something out of this to I'm going to go here, and while it might be exhausting for me and it might take a lot of energy work up for me to get there, I know that I actually might leave someone in a better spot by the time I leave, which also then makes you feel better about the experience, which reinforces that the next time you might want to go.
Right. And somebody, believe it or not, may be at the name tag table scoping out for you or for the organization you work for because they're interested in that. You're right, Thomas. I mean, particularly with people who are new to networking, and we've both worked with a lot of students. There's nobody here doing what I want to do. It's a waste of time. Well, maybe there's nobody there doing exactly what you want to do. But who's here that's doing something like it? Or who is working in the same organization but does have a different job? 7 degrees of separation, is that what it is? That it's amazing how it works. So when you're being strategic, if you say, okay, I want to see these 3 people at this event and none of them are there, yeah, I guess you could look at the name tags and then just walk away, but you're already there. So
Right.
with your strategy, like, what do I want to learn? I want to see these 3 people because of what I might learn or because of what I might share with them. If not them, then who else could help me fulfill this goal?
Yeah, for sure. Well, and this was, I know we're just a little bit over the hour, so I want to say thank you so very much. I mean, this was, as an extrovert, this was fascinating. From the comments, it looks like people were really enjoying it. I do want to say that we will be sending out this webinar, so please feel free to share it with your contacts and your connections. Anne is also going to be willing to share her contact information for post-event. So if you want to get in touch with her, this is her profession. It's what she's an expert at, and she helps people all the time be able to figure out their strengths and then play to those strengths and tackle some of those big kind of life/career conversations or topics. You might have also recalled that in some of our pre-event emails, we asked you, we said that if I think 20% of the attendees joined our Fighting Scots Career Connections platform, that we do a little bit of a raffle here this evening. We had almost 50% of you join the Fighting Scots Career Connections.
Congratulations.
Which is, yeah, fantastic. It's a new platform that we've launched. We've got about 1,500 folks in there who are helping to do informational interviews, networking by regions, networking by affinities, interests, or identity based. And we've seen a lot of great connections happening so far. So please make sure you think about joining that. So Heather Wolf from the class of 2016, Heather, you're our winner for tonight. We'll be in touch via email to make sure we get your address and send you some goodies from Worcester. We've got several more exciting programs coming up over the course of the next month. Our Women in Philanthropy series is starting next week with President Bolton, and will continue on for the next 4 weeks after that. So we hope that you join us for that. But there's a lot of great things coming up. Please make sure your email is up to date and that you check our website so that you can find more of these exciting opportunities. And lastly, I just want to say, Anne, thank you so much for being here tonight, for joining us, for sharing all of these really excellent tips. It's so good to see you, and thank you for doing this for the College of Worcester.
My pleasure, Tom. My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. Hey, have a wonderful evening. Continue to stay safe, Be well. And as always, go Scots. Take care, everyone. Good night.
Good night.